It seems that we can start. Guys, for the guys listening, kindly turn off your cameras and mute all your mics. And if you happen to unmute, just remute yourself just for the ease of like communication. And if you have any questions, I have a co-host over here, Kevin. So in the chat, you can send all your questions to Kevin. Just in the chat, just search Kevin. Send all your chats to him, and he'll communicate them to me, and that way we can have like ease of communications throughout this whole session. Hi guys, I officially want to welcome you guys to the first Tell Your Story session. So I want to officially welcome you guys to the Tell Your Story. This is the very first edition, and I'm pretty excited for what's to come. I'm glad you guys could make time for the guys who are here on this Friday to like join us. It's gonna be a great session. So for those guys who are not aware, Tell Your Story is basically a session where we bring renowned Kenyan entrepreneurs for them to like discuss like the come up story, their challenges, and go into depth about like the industry in hopes that it give us motivation, you know, to do the same. Because as a club, we were just feeling like this pandemic, there's no like real way forward. We didn't know how to like, we couldn't see a way forward for like our businesses, because for most of us we're small entrepreneurs, and we use basically one channel to like make money, that's selling directly. And now with the pandemic, it has really inhibited our processes to sell directly to people. So we were just like feeling like we don't have motivation to continue to do this. And then we just thought if we bring the best that Kenya has to offer and then share with us like the success stories or even the failures, we might maybe gain some motivation, you know, to just keep on pushing, keep on growing, and keep on learning, because that's the only way we become successful. So I'm actually glad that you guys are here to share with us in learning. And yes, so for the first edition of Tell Your Story, we decided to start it with a bang, start it with like, you know, go big, you know, they say go big or go home. We're already home, so we just decided to go the opposite way and go big. Like the person we decided to invite was, I don't know, I'm even kind of anxious, but anyway, she's she's an incredible woman, and that's just putting it mildly. Like self-made by every sense of the word. Just a list of what she's done. She's like CEO and founder of Couture magazine, which I didn't realize, until like recently, that it was the first multi-platform East Africa fashion magazine. I did not know that, which is kind of amazing. She does image and brand consultancy at IWO Consultancy. She's my favorite. I'm a bit biased. My favorite investor on the Lions Den, which is like a show. Okay, I used to watch, but you know, I really liked it though. So this is like the, I don't know, smart, brilliant, incredible, amazing, beautiful Ms Gachara. Welcome. You're still muted. Let's just unmute you right now. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. So technical. Hi.
Hi, Jesse. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. If you guys could just put like the clapping emoji for like Miss Only One Ever, like this is really big for like us and for the club, man. It's like really big. So how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Hey, great. I'm amazing, ecstatic, like you don't even understand. So I've listed out like a couple of things, like what you do. Oh, before that, let me just tell you guys how the program is gonna run. So I'm going to open up the floor. Okay, not the floor, but okay, your screens to like Olive, and she'll answer a few questions that I have, and then after which we asked like our members to send like short form questions. So they'll be almost rapid fire, which you will just answer straightforwardly. And then after that, we'll open up the floor to like 2, 3, 4 questions in a Q&A. Is that okay?
Sure, sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, so now let me open up the floor to you. So for those guys who may not be aware, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what you do?
So thanks, Jesse. Thanks for having me. I didn't know it was your first Tell Your Story session. So honored to be your first entrepreneur on the platform. As Jesse has said, my name is Ms Gachara. I am an image and brand consultant at IWO Consultancy. And what that means is, as an image and brand consultant, I offer individual consultations and corporate workshops on professional image, business etiquette, communication skills, customer communication, and personal branding. And now we're now bringing in entrepreneurial training and corporate brand developments. I've been running that business for, I think, 9 years now. Yeah, I've been running that business for 9 years now.
Wow. Okay.
And to do that, I did a specialized image consultancy course in Singapore when I was about 25, and then came back and started the consultancy firm, which was initially called Image with Olive Consultancy, but for the sake of scaling and the sake of separating the entrepreneur from the business, we rebranded to IWO Consulting.
Okay.
I am also the founder and CEO of Couture Africa Limited, which publishes Couture Africa magazine, where I sort of sit on as not the editor-in-chief, but as the managing editor. Under Couture Africa Limited, we also publish other magazines. We publish a magazine called Economic Grid in partnership with a management consultancy firm called Titans, where I also sit on as the managing editor. Published various other magazines for embassies and corporates, etc. So it's pretty much a media house and a publishing house. Couture Africa also works with Juma Limited, where we produce fashion shows, fashion events, high-end fashion events, both small scale and large scale. And that partnership has been on for about 3 years now. I started Couture Africa 6 years ago, and yeah, started with a magazine, and now we've sort of gone out into many different other things. Yes, and I am one of the lions on KCB Lions.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So we'll just get right into it. So, like many entrepreneur get successful on at that, you have a very incredible like backstory, very incredible come up story. I was reading it just in awe, like just like wow, what am I doing with my life? 17, 19, you're doing like a lot of incredible things. But let's take it back to like that time. How did you know that this entrepreneurial journey was for you? How did you know that this is something that you wanted to be? Because I feel like in that space at that time, entrepreneurial like image wasn't as big as it is right now. There are no like entrepreneurs celebrated for just being a businessman. Like there are no entrepreneurs with 100K followers. You get like it was different. So how did you know at that young age that this was for you?
So when I started my first business, which is an image consultancy. I started my first business, which is a modeling agency. It was called Kinky Modeling and Talent Agency. I started that when I was 19. And I was not trying to be an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was. I don't think it was even a word. I think that word came up a bit later. So I started it pretty much straight out of high school. My initial goal in life was to be a doctor. And so when I sort of, when you're in school, you're like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. It sounds really nice and funky. And then when I started looking at what that would require, I asked for a year out. I was just like, can I just take time to think about my life and think about what I want to do? And it's during that time I tried to dabble as a fashion model, but I keep telling people I didn't have Akina Juma's height or unique features to make it big. And I was like, well, if I can't make it big, then what else can we do? So then I started the modeling agency to manage other models, because at that time there was no agency that was focusing on fashion modeling. All the agencies that were there were casting agencies for ads. So that's how it all started. I was meant to, it was just a part-time thing, something to keep me busy, but it picked up really well. And it sort of exploded into a thing. We, fashion show event organizers. Along the way, because of working with designers and working in the fashion space, I went on to become a fashion stylist. So it was really, even till where I am today, everything has been really very organic. So yeah, it wasn't like a goal, like I would wake up in the morning and say, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Okay. But so sort of hinted on this, but could you shed a little bit of light your come up, like how it took to be the person who you are, from like that 19-year-old starting that model agency to the person we see and hear from right now? Like, what was that journey? What was the struggle, or what was like the successes you had during, like, from that time till now?
No, it's many years. So there's a lot of conversations to be had. I don't know, maybe a more specific question would be helpful, but let me try. Well, of course, starting your first business when you're 19 is not easy, especially when your target audience is like the corporate space and the event organizer space. And, they're wondering who's this young girl. In fact, half of the time I remember we'd go for meetings and guys would think it's one of the models who's waiting over there. They're like, where's the owner of this business? And you're like, no, it's me, I promise. So, I mean, it took a lot to get taken seriously, but I was a very big person on opportunity. Where you just tell someone, give me the chance to show you what we can do. And when you're given the chance, when they're like, okay, fine. There's this other company we could work with, but let's try you, let's see. And even say, I'll do it for free, I'll do it for half what you're gonna pay somebody else. But then when you do get that foot in the door, it's my biggest focus was just making sure that we do a fantastic job. Those ones of people never forget that you were there. And it's a thing that I noticed doesn't happen much today, especially with young people. They just do, whatever it is, they're busy chasing money instead of chasing quality work and things. So that helped a lot around the modeling space. I remember we had, I think it was 30 models only in our docket, but then they were like the best models in Nairobi. In fact, they would walk around, everyone knows those are kinky models over there. So it became like a brand, and they all would hang out together. And there was a lot of loyalty where if you call any of them without going through the office, they'll call us and say, so I've been called for this job, should I go, should I not? And if the jobs are not paying, we tell them not to go. And they would go, they're like, okay, no. But then of course we also have to work hard and make sure that we do get them solid jobs. So it got to a point where people knew when on the calls, you got better. And so there was that loyalty which sort of made the agency stand out from every other agency. So that's for that particular business. And then as we moved on, as I moved through life, running a modeling agency is a lot of work. You're busy literally running around the city at events, at promo gigs, at all sorts of different things, at shoots. And so when I did eventually get into fashion styling, that was of course a lot of fun. It was really easy. It came to me pretty naturally. I got to a point I was thinking, what's next? I'm not going to be a stylist. And that time there was no social media. Was that? No, I don't think it was social, but there was that wasn't a thing. I think there was only Facebook. But there was no like Instagram and all these cool platforms that push fashion really well. So I was really thinking about what would my long-term goals look like? What will I be doing when I'm 40? And it got to a point of like, this is not sustainable. I mean, it is, but this is not the vision I have. I'm not going to be chasing chicks for the rest of my life, because it's literally in modeling, you're chasing these young people left, right, and center. Like this is not a long-term plan. So what's the plan? And then I came across image consultancy, which I thought was a good next step. I think at that point I was actually striving or looking for something that would make people take me a bit more seriously, because as long as you're in fashion, especially then, now maybe it's changed a little bit, but as long as you're in fashion, you're dealing with models, your company is called Kinky Models, I mean, yes, you'll get work, but then people take you seriously as a person, I'm not very sure. So I was like, what's that thing that will now have people take me seriously? In the course of all of that, I had gone to school. I went to do an executive bachelor's in business administration with a major in entrepreneurship. Um, so I knew by that time I was like, okay, it will probably be starting another business, but what's my skill, right? So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pharmacist, I'm not like what's that skill that you can bring to the table. And so image consultancy sounded interesting for me because also I thought if that doesn't work out, it can still morph into like some sort of business consultancy. It could still be consultancy space. You can just change what you consult on. Yeah, do you want me to keep going? It's a long story.
No. I even wanted to ask, like, you keep on talking about like it's the journey was organic, but you also had a vision. So what's like the interplay between like things just happening spontaneously and it's also like having a specific vision of where I want to be in, you said like 40 years. How did you like, you have a vision, but also things that you also kind of going with the flow, like I'm doing this, okay, now this other opportunity has presented itself. Seems pretty good, let me do this. How do you know like to grow organically and also like maintain that vision at the same time?
Okay. So those days I was in my early 20s, it wasn't scientific. It really wasn't. You know what you want to achieve ideally. You want to be successful, you want to be wealthy, you want to be respected in society, and it's really a matter of any decision or any opportunity that comes along your way. At that point, and even now, is does it serve to get me a step closer to where it is that I want to go? So I'm not big on plans. I know even as a personal brand consultant, I do help people create like 6-month plans, 1 month, I mean, 1 year plans, etc. But I personally am not that big on plans. I will do 1 year. This is not even a 1 year. I have like my 5 year goal, so I know what I want to have achieved by 35, right? I know what I want to have achieved by 40. And then based on, so at every 5 year juncture, I will sort of review, have I reached, have surpassed, awesome, so what's the next one? And the only time I'll actually get down and dirty with planning is for the businesses, because now businesses need plans, otherwise then you're going nowhere. So for me, it was really the big picture. And you could do anything to become successful, wealthy, and respectable in society, like literally anything. As long as you're credible, as long as you're reliable, as long as you do a good job. So in terms of the actual thing that you do, at that point, it could have been anything. I think I started taking myself a bit more seriously after I did my image consultancy course and when I came back to set that up, because then I started realizing, and I think this was one of the benefits I had, is that I realized at a very young age the importance of building a strong personal brand. It's one of the things that I was taught to teach other people. So I realized the importance of building a strong personal brand, and this was one of the things that sort of slipped away from me. But sort of from like 25, everything changed. At the beginning, I was super winging it, like completely. So if you're under 25 and you don't know what you're doing, it's fine. I didn't know what I was doing either. And then the magazine sort of became the next most obvious thing for me to do. I keep saying some consultants write books. Actually, most consultants write books. I started a magazine. And it was mostly because of then my back life, which was in the fashion space. And it was just really organic and easy for me to get into.
Okay. So for most of us, we really get stuck at this idea phase. We all have these grand ideas. We get stuck at this. So like for you, how long did it take you from having the idea as a 19-year-old or 21-year-old when you're starting like your other companies to then go? And then from there, did you like look at logistics like, oh, am I going to have an accountant? Am I going to have someone doing my books? Am I going to have someone on the run? How long did it take you to like formulate this idea to just know like, yeah, it is feasible to do this? And like, yeah, and what would you tell people who are also in the idea phase? Like, because you seem like you just went 19. That's how it's presented. Like, hey, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing, but most of us get stuck in after like, even taking the first step is having the idea, but now taking like the subsequent like 100 steps, which is like making it something you believe in even and other people will believe in?
There's a phrase, sometimes we overanalyze, that's the analysis.
Yeah.
You overanalyze your idea, your business concept, the thing that you want to do, and before you know it, you've literally psyched yourself out of it. So with my first business, I didn't know what I was doing. I just literally started. I remember, what did I have? I think I had QuickBooks. I had in my mind, I knew the importance of keeping accounts, so I would use the QuickBooks. No, those are, I think, some bootlegged version on a computer somewhere, so that I would use to do like basic accounts, which was really neither here nor there. I was terrible. But then, luckily, because about a year into it, I went to school, to business school. So I would learn something and then go and implement it. Learn something, go and implement it. So the modeling agency business was all over the place, but I think by the time we were winding it up, it had become much more structured. And so by the time I was starting my second business, I did know exactly what I needed to do. I remember I found an accountant somewhere at like year 3. I was like, okay, I can keep basic accounts, but I think you need to come and do KRA things for me and whatnot. So he was a freelance accountant. You pay him like a small amount every month, and he does your books. And he was working with like a lot of people in our circles. That was his gig. And we've been together since. We've been together for over 15 years. So then now, starting the consultancy firm, I knew what to do and what not to do. So it was much more structured at the beginning. We were more intentional about the numbers, about our projections, about our sitting, and all of that stuff. So the first business was winging it. And even when I came back, even after my studies, and I wanted to start the consultancy firm, those 2 questions in my head was, do I just work as an independent consultant, or do I put a company underneath it? And I realized as an independent consultant, you can only grow so much. You put a company underneath it, then you're setting it up for scale right from the beginning. So we do have, and the other thing was really good at even with the first business was we had a full business plan. We knew the things we were going to do. So even when we were doing fashion shows, everything was very intentional. We sort of sat down and thought things out as much as possible, and we would review, which is still things I do till today.
So like you've spoken about like your education, where you did entrepreneurship and business. Apart from like the accounting, what other thing do you feel like your degree or your educational background helped you like in your business?
So say that again?
How do you feel like your education has helped in your business apart from like the accounting? Was there any other value it added to you in being a business person?
Oh no, I hired an accountant. I didn't do my own accounting. So that had nothing to do with my education. I think the good thing about studying entrepreneurship as a major is you touch on every single thing in a business. Is what I keep telling people. You do a bit of marketing, you do a bit of HR, you do a bit of finance, you do a bit of what else is there in business? So you touch everything to do with a business. So you're more well-rounded to be able to start and run. You're literally taught how to start and run a business. And even with the image consultancy course that we did, it's actually only for people who want to start consultancy firms. Because by the time you leave, they literally teach you, at least on a high level, because they don't understand your country, how to start and run an image consultancy business. So, and a lot of the other courses that I do are triggered or are targeted towards helping me become better at running businesses. For example, even at Strathmore, I've been Strathmore twice. I've done WELL, which is Women in Executive Leadership Week. So I've done that, which was, I think, a short course, it was like a week. And I've done OMP, which is the Owner Manager Program, again for business owners. So education is very important, but you have to keep learning, you have to keep refining your skills. And of course, having intelligent people around you, having the right people around you who can be able to advise you when you don't know what to do, because there's always so many gray areas.
Yeah, okay. You've also mentioned something pretty interesting. You keep learning. Now, for you at this point, like you're really a pioneer in the game for like fashion magazines in East Africa, brand consultancy. How do you keep on learning when you are at the forefront of the industry?
you learn from other industries because we didn't pioneer fashion magazines in the world, right?
Yeah.
But then you have magazines like Vogue and Elle that have been there for decades. So it's really benchmarking yourself with the best in the world. Some of my coaches are from the US and from Asia, because then they give you a global perspective, and it's now up to you to see how to localize that into your African context, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, now that you've mentioned it, I was going to get this onto this a bit later, but let's just go into it now. With like social media and how information is so accessible, what place do you feel like magazines have in like society right now? What place do they hold? Do magazines hold? Like, because people can get information so readily accessible, like recipes or access to models. It's readily available on the Instagram, on the Google, on YouTube. What place do magazines hold like in culture, and especially like the East African or Kenyan like market and culture?
I think media houses still have a lot of weight and a lot of strength. They give an element of credibility to any story that goes out. Good thing about magazines, especially fashion magazines, is that we're not constrained by time. You know, you're not running to give news first.
Yeah,
It also becomes a creative platform. It's just like art. If you see a
yeah,
great picture on a camera or on your laptop, it looks great, but when you see it printed and on your wall, it's like, wow, it sort of comes to life. On the credibility section, you'll see, even for example, to date, if you look at mainstream news, if there is negative news, or if someone is being trolled, or there's like a bad story, if it's on the blogs, nobody takes it seriously. But then once it's on like Nation or Standard, guys are like, oh wow, okay, this is like serious. So there's
yeah.
an element of credibility that traditional media still has, be it magazines, newsprint, TV, that the blogs cannot really, or that influencers and things cannot really be able to take away from.
Oh, okay. Let's just get back to like your journey now. So apparently you started a business when you were 19, and then another one when you're 21. Oh, this is fake news. Is that accurate?
21. I started my first business when I was 19 or 18, somewhere there, which was the
Uh-huh.
modeling agency. And then I started the image consultancy firm when I was 25.
Oh,
And then I started the fashion magazine when I was, I think, 28.
28. So out of
Yeah.
all these industries that you've been in, which one posed like the biggest challenge for you?
Media. Oh, media is hard. Jesus. Half the time I'm like, why did I have to start a magazine? So I'm just, wow. I'd have done manuals.
Yeah,
No, media is definitely one of the more difficult ones, because there's so many moving parts. Um, sorry,
it's okay.
sorry, something happened. Okay. So media is one of the more difficult ones because there's so many moving parts. You're managing so many different things. It's expensive to run. It's expensive to get customers. You're reliant on advertising and copy sales. It's a ginormous. I remember when I wanted to start Couture Africa, I sat with Dr. Masitsa of Samantha Bridal magazine, and I was like, so this is what I want to do. And she's like, don't do it. Do not do it. Don't. Oh, if you want to die young, get into publishing. But I was pretty gung-ho about it. I think my mind was made up.
Yeah.
And so then she's like, okay, if you're gonna do it, then let's have lunch, and at least I can guide you to try and help you so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. You might still make some of them, but
Yeah.
listen to some of my stories, and then maybe they won't be as deadly.
Wow. Okay, so for like now the previous ventures you went to, like the modeling agency, how did they support you into your later ventures that you still currently do?
Sorry, say that again.
Like how did your previous ventures, like when you started off young, how did they like help you in your experience right now? What lessons did you learn from back then that you still implement till today?
What lessons did I learn? Okay.
Yeah.
So the modeling agency, I've learned different things in different stages. Maybe I'll start. The agency taught me, it taught me the grind. Like it taught me the importance of like working hard. because when you're running an agency, you're working all day, every day, you're always on, you're never off. We were running fashion models, we were running promo girls, we were running hostesses for events. And so you find yourself working almost through the night-ish, never on your computer, but you know, you're on the phone, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're out. And then you're sleeping late. In the morning, you still have to wake up for on. I remember I used to go for like, I just crash, and I'm like for 5 days. And you know, sick is just like, no, chilling. If you want to continue running around, you're by yourself. So that's agency taught. And an element of maturity in business. So even I sit with a lot of people, a lot of leaders, and they're like, "Wow, you're so mature for your age. You're beyond your years," is what I'm always being told. And I think it really came from the image consultancy business and just the level at which you have to not just pitch your business, but interact with people once you do get the opportunity to interact with them, interact with corporates. Because you can imagine you're 25, 26, and you're telling CEOs or an exco or a C-level person how to sit and how to stand and how to shake hands. And you have to say it with authority such that they actually listen to you. And I remember there was I was doing a training for KICC management. And this one guy, he was, I think, the deputy CEO at the time. He even told me, he came to me at I think, during the tea break. He came to me and he's like, first of all, I really want to apologize. So I'm like, okay, why would you like to apologize? And he says, when I saw you, first of all, I thought you were the training aide, training assistant. I didn't think you were the trainer. And then when you started speaking, I knew for a fact that I will not be here for more than, like at this tea break, I'll be leaving. And your method of delivery and your content, it's so rich. I even feel guilty for judging you. You didn't need to know, but I just thought I would apologize. But see, now it's sort of made me have to step up, like by force. Otherwise, if you still carry yourself around like your typical 25, 26-year-old, then you're not going to make it. So that's for the consultancy firm. And then to the magazine, I think with the magazine, it taught me how to, what did I learn from the magazine? Well, I learned a lot of technical computer skills because none of my businesses, you know, I had to get very switched on social. I had to get very switched on just a lot of digital things that I didn't really think I would ever have to learn. And then it also taught me, I guess, how to manage people, how to manage egos, how to manage personalities. Because now suddenly, you know, in corporates, everyone behaves a certain way. Models, you're their boss, you tell them what to do. If they don't do it, you fire them, you get another one. And then now here you are dealing with, especially when you want to work with the best. So you're trying to, you know, you're dealing with celebrities, you're dealing with superstar designers, you're dealing with superstar fashion designers. So that really taught me how to manage people without being aggressive. Because a lot of guys in the creative space are crazy, right? Like, the things that come out of their mouths. So how to manage people and how to still be a boss without having to yell at people, without having to be rude, without having to undercut guys. And yeah, so media is like a jungle. And I think I'm not ready for that jungle, but I think now I'm fine.
Sounds great. Just for anyone who has joined right now, if you have a question, kindly send it to Kevin Gishungu. Just type on the chat, Kevin Gishungu, and you send him the questions and he'll send them over to me. Okay, now back. Okay, so now we have to kind of address like the situation we're currently in, the pandemic, COVID-19. So I was wondering, how are you adapting to the current situation? What are the changes you've made in your company to maneuver this very, very unprecedented and tough times?
Okay, so fortunately or unfortunately, my businesses are very people-oriented. You need people to work, you're in training, you're doing fashion events, you're doing shoots. So you're always around people and big groups of people to that extent. So I think for the month of April, I was just in like shock. In fact, I think like 2 weeks before Easter, I was like, Yeah, I don't know. Let's just chill and think, like, what is this? Then when you start realizing, and just also observing trends and trying to figure out or trying to project how this is all going to play out. So we realized it's going to be with us for quite some time. And what we're doing now on the consultancy side, on the image consultancy, on the brand consultancy side, is we're digitizing all our content. So this is something that I've been meaning to do for 4 years, but I've never had time. I have all the time in the world. So we're digitizing all our content. It's a lot of work. It's a very clunky operation. So we've sort of set up sort of the platform that it's going to be on, which took some time. And now it's creating the actual content. So in fact, the room that I'm in is the room that we'll be doing all the video sessions in. So that's on the consultancy side. We have gotten or we've purchased another platform that can do closed classrooms, like virtual classrooms, because you can't do a group training, even if it's a virtual one, on platforms like Zoom or Google, because of the caliber of clients that you train, because of security and things. So we've been able to find a platform that we can be able to use, which is a closed classroom, and will be specifically for in-house training. So that's exciting. We did our first trial run this week. It sort of went okay, I think. So now we roll it out. Yes, then we just start rolling that out. And the good thing about the whole digitization process is that even when things seemingly go back to normal, it will still remain as a revenue stream, especially once we digitize all our courses. So we do expect to finish digitizing all our courses in about the next 2 weeks, which is the courses that I train. And then we already have people who are saying, can I come and do a course on your platform? So I'm like, oh, I've not even launched it, but yeah, sure. You can come and record you in a week and a half, So that's exciting. For Couture Africa, we are launching a new product in end of May, which is still a lifestyle fashion product. So far we're on social. We're not really doing much. I think we're realizing the importance in sometimes letting things play out. So we have sort of suspended our publications, our print publications for the next 3 months. That's April, May, June, because we know first of all one is buying magazines, eh? So there's no point in printing one. So we will put up some digital, not digital, but what do you call it? Like e-magazines, e-zines. So some e-zines will come up, and then we'll just sort of go ham on our social media platforms around fashion, beauty, culture, but also you also have to feel the pulse of your audience. And there's a sense of despair and distraught, and guys are just not in a good place. So it doesn't make sense to go ham on awesomeness when people are trying to figure out how they're going to get their next meal. So we're trying to be a little bit conscious about how we do our social media activities, especially as a brand. Maybe you're an individual, you can still be living your best life. But then as a brand, we need to be a bit more intentional and a bit more sensitive to all of that. So we're taking it a bit slow on that side as we listen to how things play out.
Wow, okay, that's really interesting. Okay, now could you speak about the image consultancy a bit and how it can help small to medium entrepreneurs, because that's most of the audience. How can your image consultancy and brand consultancy help people build their brand and build their companies?
Okay, so the good thing about image consultancy or image and brand consultancy is that it's people-centric. It's focused on you as an individual. And so I train on professional image, which is how you dress and how you present yourself to your clients. In fact, I was just thinking the other day, 2 days ago, I'm like, I need to do a whole course on what do you call this thing that we're on, webinars, and how to present yourself on calls, because the things that are happening, oh my goodness. Anyway.
Okay, let me ask you this. Am I doing a good job so far? Am I doing a good job so far?
You don't ask me 3 questions. Can I answer the first question that he asked me? So professional image is about how you present yourself and how you dress. Not just if you're a corporate, but even if you're in a lifestyle business or a more casual business, it's still a matter of looking a certain level of smart so people can take you seriously. Communication skills is really how you're able to communicate with people, how you speak, how you body language. It speaks a lot. We always say that in any form of communication, 70% is actually more on your body language than on the words that are actually coming out of your mouth. So we train people on that and help them be a bit more intentional about their body language and about their communication skills, both verbal, non-verbal, written, social media. How do they present themselves on the internet? What are they tweeting about? What are they posting on their pages? And how does that reflect back to them? And then on personal branding, so then there's many other things in between, but more specific to entrepreneurs, is personal branding is really how to make yourself stand out as being the best in your field. I hear a lot of people sometimes complaining about some professionals, and they're like, that guy or that chick, they're not even that good, but then they've elevated themselves, people think that they're the best. And I'm like, but see now, if you're the best and no one knows you exist, you need to find a way to get people to know that you're there, right? So when I say doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. So personal branding is about, first of all, refining your own skills in whatever skill set it is, and then defining the industry that you want to be seen in, and really making sure that you're seen or portrayed as being the best in that field, or at least one of.
Okay. Something that I've always wanted to know, like this whole concept of fake it till you make it. Like you do the most, like even though you can't do it, you just fake it till until one day you're successful. Well, how do you feel like that relates into branding? And do you feel like a truthful approach is better, or how would you like combat that? Like, I'm trying to portray that I can do this so that people can take me seriously, but in actuality, I might not be able to do what I'm saying I can do. So, how do you think about this whole concept of fake it till you make it? And like, what's like the truth, like branding yourself?
I used to say fake it till you make it in my 20s. That was like one of my credos if you check back in some of my interviews. Now I say fake it till you become it. But what I mean by fake it till you make it is it's not so much pretend, but it's always act as if, I think is a better way to put it. So act as if you're successful, act as if you've already gotten that deal, act as if you're that respected, successful entrepreneur and you walk into a room. Because when you act as if, you carry yourself with a bit more confidence, right? So fake it till you make it. You could be the startup SME in that room, but then you carry yourself with so much confidence. Guys are thinking this guy must know what he's talking about. So that's what I think every time I use the word fake it till you make it. It was more act as if, the deal is already yours. But then in terms of context and subject matter, you really have to become the best in what you do. And that's why some of us are always continually developing and mastering our skills, because you really have to become the best at what you do. I remember the reason when I was winding up Kinky Models, it was mostly because, not mostly, but to some extent, because Ajuma had just come back to the country. We know who Ajuma is, right? She was Kenya's first supermodel. And she wanted to start an agency. And at that time, I was thinking of starting a magazine. And I knew I was not going to be able to do a magazine and an agency and a consultancy firm. And so I found that she had the similar levels of excellence that we had in what we did. And I was like, okay, I've been looking for someone who is like a sucker for excellence. And I've not found one, but now here you are. So you know what, I can put this one aside and let's work together. And then you do the agency stuff full time, and we do the magazine stuff full time. So you really have to be the best at what you do. If you're doing an event and it's supposed to start at 5, everything needs to be set up and done by 5 o'clock. Not guys at 6:15. And no Kenyans, we're so, like, we don't really care. We're like, it's fine. What's the big deal? Olive, chill. Hey, my friends, no. So you really, really have to be the best at what you do. Otherwise, even if you get into the room, even if you take your way into the room, you'll still be caught
Okay. But we are the best club. best university club. So that one I'm not faking. That's for real, for
Okay.
real. Yeah. So now I want to take it a bit back because people have been asking about like your beginnings because you did start young, and we want guys want to know like how is it like financially? How is it financially to begin? What type of funding did you use to begin? And what role did like your surroundings play into like you eventually starting off at 19?
What role did my surroundings play? In what sense?
Yeah,
In what sense?
like like in terms of like the encouragement or the opposite, and also what type of funding did you use? Were you the type to get loans here and there? Were you the type to, you know, ask your parents, or did you go like to a commercial bank? People want to know like how
Uh,
how basically you started off and how your surroundings were for that takeoff.
yeah, okay. So I'll talk to all three businesses, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
for the modeling agency, I mean, all you need is models, and then you start getting them work. So I didn't really need any startup capital. I just started. I remember I was given a small room in my mother's office and a computer. So that's, at least I had that. And I think and we had cell phones. So we would just, the models would go get portfolios done at their own costs. Then they give the pictures to you and you start flogging them. So that didn't really require any startup capital per se. I would jump into the car with my mother in the morning when she'd go to work, and then I'd come back home with her in the evening, which she thought was great because there's other worse things that I could be doing as a 19-year-old. So she was quite
Yeah.
pleased to be taking me to work with her every day. So that was for the modeling agency, and then luckily we started making money right off the bat. I stayed in my mom's office for maybe about a year or two before we now got the gravitas to get our own space. And then went and rented a house in Lavington, a huge house, like on an
Yeah.
acre. And then I kept the master bedroom, it was a bungalow. So I kept the master bedroom as our office, and then I sublet all the other rooms to other offices. So then that generated its own money such that I wasn't even paying rent, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think even, and then there's a service charge. So from the service charge, I would pay the bills, electricity, water, the cheese, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how that ran for a while. And then for the image consultancy course, I'd saved enough money. And so I was able to sort of take myself to Singapore, do the course, study what I needed to study, and then come back and start the business, which was still in the same house, right? That we were renting and subletting. And then for the magazine, because media, of course, is a bit more capital intensive, we got investors to come into the business. And not so much even into the magazine, but into myself as a business person, who's been able to start and run a successful business. And I remember at some points, I'm not even sure how or why they had that confidence, because I'm like, but you know, I have two other hustles, but then I need to invest in this, that. But they did, so we were able to get the investment into that. And because of the investment, we again had to start it extremely structured, like extremely structured, because you have to do your reporting every month, you have to do your management accounts, you have to do all of that stuff. So that's how those three sort of run out.
Oh, that's quite interesting, quite interesting. And guys want to know because this one has been asked a bit much, like about like your education, like where did you study, and yeah, where did you study basically, and how do you think that has helped you? But I feel like you would address that. But where
Okay,
did
I
you
think
study?
we answered the
Yeah,
second part,
yeah.
but I studied at the Swiss Management Academy.
Mm. Oh, wow. Okay, okay. I
And
knew
then
that.
before, sorry?
No, no, no. Continue. Sorry, sorry.
Oh, no, so I did my bachelor's at the Swiss Management Academy. I did my image consultancy course at the Academy of Image Mastery and the London Image Institute. I've been to SBS. I
Oh,
was in Kenya High, I was in Boma in high school. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I was also like surprised to find out that you went to Consolata Primary School. Was that
Yeah,
true?
well, I went to consider from like class 1 to class 4. I'm not sure that counts. But yes,
Oh,
class 1 to, then I went to boarding school in class 5.
yeah.
I was raised by two doctors, and I think they were at the peak of their careers, and they're like, these children, you don't have time. So we're all taken to boarding school. So I was taken to a boarding school called Abades from class 5 to class 8. Yeah, and I think boarding school is actually really good. When I get my children, I take them to boarding school because it gives you a sense of independence. I know I was on the last one, so there's a lot of, I was daddy's girl. So boarding school sort of removes you from all of that, and you have to fight your own battles. And I was the smallest, so you have all these big girls bullying you. So it's good. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, for like all the other questions, we'll address them at the end. We'll address all the other questions at the end. Those were just like burning questions that guys were asking. So for the rest of the questions, we'll just answer them at the end. So now you definitely must a lot of like success and pretty young at it. So what are like what's like the experience about being like successful at a very very young age? What are like the challenges and the upsides about like being a person who's quote unquote made it in like life at such a young age?
So first, I don't think I've made it, huh?
Uh,
No, I
uh,
really like, no, because you're so busy on the grind trying to, I think making it is one of those things that you realize after the fact, right? Like maybe when I'm 50, I'll be like, ah, actually, now I see what guys were talking about. But I mean, it's, and also I think the day you think you make it is the day you've lost it, if that makes sense. It's, Steve Jobs said, never stop being hungry. Something, stay hungry, stay focused, right? So I don't really think in my head I've made it per se. We're still on the grind every day. You know, we're faced by challenges. I know the worst thing is the higher you go, the worse your challenges are. Because before I used to think about the stuff that used to stress me 10 years ago. And I'm like, I need those stresses now. Those were such small problems. But at that time, it was like life and death, you know. And now the ones that we have now are like life and death. So I don't think I've quite made it. I think I'm still on the journey. And yeah.
Okay. Then let me rephrase the question like this, because you've like gone like okay, so like when you were starting off, let's say as 19, what perception of success did you have in your mind, and has your experience lived up to that success? And if it hasn't, what are like the variances between what you thought was going to be success and what you have experienced throughout your career?
Okay, so when I started out at 19, I just wanted to be like really, really wealthy. I just wanted to be rich. I just wanted to be a doctor because doctors are rich. At least then they were. Now I don't know. And I remember wanted to be a dermatologist because there's like 5 or 6 of there were like 5 or 6 of them in the country at that time. So for me, success was wealth. Like, you know, you want to be comfortable, you want, you know, you want to never ever have to think about money. And then I went and became an entrepreneur, which is just like I don't think the road to riches is through entrepreneurship. Because the more money you have, you know, people say, you know, so and so has a net worth of X amount, but that's not money in their bank. That's not what their bank account looks like. That's probably what they've built, which fortunately or unfortunately they don't even have control over. So for me, that's what I thought success was. Now, I think success is, and yes, okay, I think success is being able to do something that you love, something that you're passionate about. To that extent, I think I'm extremely successful and extremely grateful that I wake up in the morning and I spend my days and I get paid to tell people how to dress. It's fascinating. My mother still laughs about it still today. It's like I cannot believe, like people pay you to tell them to sit to, so I can tell them sit up, chin up. You know, it's madness. But the fact, and that's why I work all the time because I like what I do, and that for me is success. And as long as you know you have a roof over your head, a decent roof over your head, and you're able to afford the basic things that you need, whether it's as an individual or for your family, then you're well on your way. I used to think success was happiness, but I think happiness is a state of mind. So I don't think happiness falls under that bracket.
Okay. So you've talked about happiness is doing what you love. Success, I mean, is doing what you love. At what point did it turn from being wealth, generation of wealth, and to it being like now doing what you love? It's like, yeah, I am successful because I do what I love. What was like the turning point?
When you realize that no matter how, especially if you're a true passionate business person, half of the money you make will always go back into the business, right? So
Okay.
it's not like you're in a plush job where you're. In fact, sometimes I even think if I like went into marketing, and because I think I'm pretty smart, right? So I went
Yeah.
into marketing and I became like a super marketing director somewhere. Then I'm taking home 2M a month and have like a mortgage of like 200K. Then like that would be so easy. Then I would have like cash savings. I'd be going on holiday. But then, in an event, you can make that 2 million shillings in 2 days, right? But
Yeah.
it will always go into something. It's going into something that you're developing. It's going into this. It's going into that. Because that's just the way your mind works. You're not looking at saving and building your bank account. You're looking at really building the world around you. So that's when I realized, okay, I don't think that day will come when I can say success is about the amount of money that you've made. It's really about whether you like doing what you do or not.
Yeah, okay. I completely understand. So, but now there is a perception of you in society. Okay, let's just say I think you're successful. Yeah. And
No,
many
I am
people,
successful. I think I'm successful too. I said,
yeah. What
made
I'm
it,
trying
I don't know.
what I'm trying to say is that yeah, you are successful. And to us, okay, to me, let me just speak for myself, you have quote unquote made it in terms of like societal standards. That definitely comes with a worldview of how people treat you and how people are towards you. How do you feel like that has been like? Is there any like positives of having this status as like a business personality, investor? Like you have this status CEO, like you are a really big business personality. Is there like any challenges that comes with that, like being perceived as me, as a person who has made it?
So that's two questions. So the
Yeah.
good thing is, yes, you can call anyone and they'll pick up your call. You can walk into any room and people sort of know who you are.
Yeah.
So it makes life much easier. I've even called a few people. I'm like, hi, so this is Ms Gachara. I'm like, of course I know who you are. I'm like, first of all, how do you even have my number now? Anyway, so there's that you can be able to knock on doors and talk to doors that you would not be able to otherwise knock on and have conversations with people that you would not otherwise be able to have conversations with, which I think is important. And I think it's what will even help sort of catapult me to the next level, whatever that level looks like. The downside is now everything is expensive. Let me tell you, Olive calls for a quote. So I even stopped calling for quotes. I'm like, please, so I get my guys. I'm like, and don't say it's for Olive, don't say it's for couture, just to get us like the cost. Like literally, it's like day and night. I'll come in and ask you, so Jesse, I need some random person,
Yeah.
let's call her Jockey. Says, can you do for me a website? You'll be like, yeah, sure, it'll be 20K. Then Olive comes and says, so I'd like to get a website done. I'm like, yeah, sure, it'll be 200K. And I'm like, what happened to the days when we were all hustling together and everyone was like, yeah, nine? When did I leave that? I mean, I'm not complaining, but yeah, so
Yeah.
things become more expensive. We just have to be more intentional
More in touch.
about how to maneuver that situation.
Okay, now being in that you're in two different industries, how do you, okay, image, branding, and like fashion and magazines, how do you balance them? And what link do you think that they have in like the way people view like culture and everything? What links do like the two companies have, and how do you balance them both?
Okay, so Culture Africa as a team, it can run well without me, so to speak.
Okay.
And even for the other publishing lines that we do, every time we get a commission, we bring in writers and we bring in people to actually do the work. And we were very intentional in setting it up that way because one of the things I realized when I was setting up Image with Olive Consultancy was it was circled around Olive, and when Olive is not there, then there's no business, right? So I do spend most of my time on the consultancy side because it actually needs me there physically, doing the actual training, doing the actual client work, managing. So that requires more of my personal time. And having that in mind, I was very intentional in making sure we set up Culture Africa in such a way that it can ride on its own. Bring in, and even if you look at the editors we've had in the past, we've had very strong personalities who can be able to sort of be a core face to the brand, so it's not just about Ms Gachara.
Okay. So now, but in these two like spheres, that Kenya is definitely not a world leader, but is there something that we can give the world, like especially like the fashion industry? Is there anything that we do well, or that the world could learn from us, or in the branding industry, like how we brand in Kenya? Is there anything that we could export in any of those industries?
So I think the world is feeding a lot, is taking a lot from Africa in terms of fashion. A lot of fashion inspirations, I think they've exhausted their channels. Now they're looking to Africa for fashion inspiration. And I think it's now up to the local fashion designers, African fashion designers, to really step up their game and not have Louis Vuitton on the catwalk with Masai blankets and you're busy trying to use raw silk, you know?
Yeah.
So what can we do? So, and that's what we always try to encourage them. So that's one part. And then on the other part, it's really about showcasing African creativity because Black women are beautiful, Black men are beautiful. And when you look at the types of shoots that we can do, a Mzungu photographer will be like dying for an opportunity to photograph that. I don't know, it's like by the wild, I don't know. But we can really come up with amazing fashion and photography concepts and feed that to the world, as opposed to waiting for photographers to come, look for the Ajumas of this world and photograph them again. We're like, why don't we do those photos here and then send them out? Which I think is beginning to happen slowly more and more. On the brand perspective, one big thing, even as we are digitizing the courses, is giving me an opportunity to review the courses a bit more intimately and a bit more details. Something I've not done in some time because you're so busy teaching, you don't have time to reevaluate. And it's really, and we are targeting, or the courses are targeted to an African demographic, because now once you're online, you're no longer targeting Kenyans, right?
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is to make everything our own. We're talking about business etiquette and how you behave amongst each other. From the training that I had, it was a lot about European versus Asian versus this versus that. And so now it's really about having the wisdom to give localized context, saying the difference between Muslims and Christians and how they relate. Muslims don't shake hands and things like those. Wakorinos clap. Did you know Wakorinos clap and kisses? We'll also soon we'll all be greeting each other like Wakorinos because of COVID. So it's really a matter of tailoring that. If you look at, for example, when you talk about dressing for your body shape, how we're now unpacking that to expand it to cover more Africanized, quote unquote, body shapes. So it's really using the knowledge of the continent that I have, from Africa that I have. If you go to Lagos and you're trying to tell people how to be have you been to Lagos? You need to go to Lagos. You don't even know how to start teaching etiquette. Like from where? You really have to sort of take what you've been taught and stand it on its head and then teach it back to them. So I wouldn't say that there's something to teach the world. I mean, we could teach them on how to relate with us, but it's more on how do we take international best practice and tailor it to an African content or context.
Okay, fine. Okay, but in terms of branding, what can we take on? What do you feel like Kenyan companies and like workers lack, and what can we take from like the European side or Asian side? What can we take to improve our personal branding as like individuals who want to be employees or companies that want to like grow? What can we take from other continents and bring and make our own?
That's a very broad question. I don't think there's a single answer to it, but I think in terms of personal branding, the most important thing is just for people to first be aware of it and to be a bit more intentional about the way they conduct themselves within the organizations, the way you conduct yourself, being more, because Africa is not as cutthroat as the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, people are like super competitive. They're like running to the top. Here we're just sitting and hoping that someone will notice us and give us a promotion. So just being a bit more intentional and being more aware of the impact of a personal brand will probably change what the business landscape looks like by a mile.
Okay. So another thing that people wanted us to discuss is entrepreneurship for women. So over the past couple of years, several steps have been taken to ensure that women have a fair chance in like this entrepreneurial space. What I wanted to ask is, what do you think has been done right so far to make sure that women have a fair chance, and what else can be done to level the playing field in terms of perception and in terms of actual ground reality of what it's like between like the genders in being an entrepreneur?
Okay, sorry, that's a long question. So I
Yeah.
think if you compare to the time of our mothers, and Olive couldn't just wake up and go and register a business, right?
Yeah.
I think our mothers, maybe our mothers, couldn't even travel out of the country without their husbands signing on a document, that document for visa applications and things. So a lot has been taken to make women independent, which is important to know or to note rather. And even as women are getting independent, small things changing, like now women can own land without having to have a man owning land, co-owning the land with them. Women can inherit property from their parents. Those things are going a long way in helping women create wealth. Because once women create wealth, then they can be able to do things like start businesses, sell their property, develop the land that they have without having to rely on the men. So as policies are changing to make women more independent, a lot is happening. Of course, we know in government you have the 30% gender rule, both within government, and it's been encouraged to some companies in terms of employment. And we also have the 30% priority to women, youth, and people with disabilities. I don't know why we've been plowed together with people with disabilities, but like being a woman with a disability. But even then, I've been tempted many times to make noise about it, but there's even at 30%, they're still getting less than 5% of women applying for tenders within government. So I think the policies are being put in place and more can be done policy-wise. However, until women exhaust the opportunities that are there, then some of us who have the influence to make noise for more policies to be made cannot really make more noise. Because if you go to Gava and say, oh no, we need a separate thing for women and a separate thing for this and that, we'll be like, but even at 30%, we're getting less than 5% subscription. What's the problem? First, go talk to your women and let them step up, right? So yes, a lot has been done, but it's also on to women business owners to really step up and start going and chasing big contracts and big gigs.
Okay. And what could you speak on like the role that we young entrepreneurs have to bridge in that gap between like how the perception between men and women are? Like what can we do actively right now to bridge that gap?
So first of all, I personally don't see myself, and I keep saying this, I say it over and over again. So I personally don't see myself as a woman in business. I see myself as a person in business. And I don't think that being a woman it could, but I don't think it should reduce my chances for getting anything I pitch for, right? In any case, we all know that women make better leaders. We all know that investors like to invest in businesses where there's more women on the board. In fact, being a woman should benefit you in business, right? So it's a matter of perception, and this all boils down to an independent or into an individual level and point of view. The moment you start seeing yourself as disadvantaged because you're a woman in business, let alone a young woman in business, you will always be disadvantaged because you carry yourself with less confidence. You'll carry yourself with more doubt. You will have that poor me mentality. So as opposed to having the poor me mentality, do that whole act as if thing I keep talking about, right? Act as if you're the best young person or young woman in that room. And the women who have stood out are the women who are unapologetic. The young people who have stood out are the young people who have dared to dream, who have dared to do the big things regardless. I'll give you a story. I was we were pitching for training, and I remember it was one of my BDMs who went and got the meeting, and she called me. She's like, okay, so we have a pitch, but then now this is like we're at the content level. You need to come for this meeting. So we go for the meeting, and it was to train an executive committee, an exco of about 40, on I think soft skills and networking or something of the sort, or soft skills and personal branding. I can't remember what it was about. Anyway, so could you come and speak to the content and all of that stuff? So I walked in, and the HR director was a man maybe in his mid-50s. The HR executive was like a young girl. She knew me. She had seen me on TV. She's like, "Oh my God, Olive, yay!" So it's like, okay, this is cool, but she's not the one who makes the decision. It's this guy. And you could see the guy, even from the questions he was asking, was looking at this chick. I was 28 there, 27, 28. He was looking at this girl, and he was even looking at my portfolio of like the companies we've trained. And he would ask me, it's like, okay, so I can see here you've written Airtel. Who did you work with at Airtel? So like, so I say who I trained, and it was like, no, who in HR were you talking to? So I tell him. Then he goes to the next company, and this one, who in HR were you talking to? So I realized this guy. First of all, that time my portfolio was long.
Yeah.
So you could realize that this guy probably he's already discounted me because first I'm probably first because I'm young, that's definite. And then second, probably because I'm a woman, because I know in that exco for that company there's only two women that sit on it. So we left, and the lady's like, "Oh, it went well. What do you think?" I'm like, "No, that you're not getting it. I'm making this to me. That guy's really discounted me." Anyway, fast forward to 2 weeks later. So of course we get the call, and the chick, she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I really think you'd have done such a good job." I was like, "It's okay." So I get a call 2 weeks later from a company that I trained through. And this guy is like, "Can you go for a training in Naivasha on Friday?" I was like, "Okay, no problem." So it's I think it was a half day. So it's a half day. You could drive, or we could get a driver to pick you up. You start in the morning, you're done by lunchtime, then you can come back, or you can stay, and we'll pay you for the full day rate. And then if you want to stay, let us know. There's accommodation available. So like, it's okay for me. I'll train and come back. And yes, pay me for my full day. So I get to Naivasha, and guess which company it was waiting to be trained? That same guy. Actually, he saw my face. He could not believe it. He was very confused. He's like, we hired a company called this and this. I'm like, yes, through that old man. He's the one who does the pitches, and then he gives us the work to do. So even I give him my card from that company where I was called that training and something consultant. And you could see the old man was so shocked. So shocked. And I mean, I did my training. In fact, when I knew what company it was, I was like, now here, that's when I need to bring my A game so that I can make this guy feel some kind of way. And after that, I started training that company moving forward. He even apologized. He's like, I'm very impressed. He didn't apologize, but he's like, I'm impressed. He was shook. But to my point is, if all of that happened, and then during the session you don't bring it, and you're less, you're subpar, then he'd be like, see, this is why we don't work with young women.
Yeah.
Right? So never see yourself as a woman in business or as a young person in business. You're a business person, and it's a matter of trying to be the best that you can be. The only thing that older people should have on you is experience.
Okay. Now, like, to the part I think many people want to know. So, where I saw you first was Lansden. That's why, and I think many people, where I saw you first was Lions Den, and I think that's where many people came to know you from, was like Lions Den. So could you talk about a bit about like how that came to be? How did the whole Lions Den thing came to be? Like, how did the whole show, and why did they decide to go with you as an investor?
Okay, I don't know why they decided to go with me, but I was called one day, and I was asked if I'd like to be on this TV show. I knew that it was happening. I knew that they're going to do a pilot, and I had actually assumed that it would be like a much older investor crop, like your Kirubi types. But then when they asked me if I'd like to be a part of it, I was like, no. Well, I don't have 100 million shillings sitting in my account waiting to invest in people, but if I find a few great deals, I'm happy to work with them. And I think they were intentional in getting a younger, but a younger batch of investors because their audience is quite young. And so if they got people who are too old, there'd be a disconnect, people who are not relatable. So I like the opportunity because it would help me see other businesses and just interact with other businesses. And there's an entrepreneur investor, there's a lot of mentorship that comes into play. As someone who has gone and looked for investors before, I understand the process quite well. And I also understand the importance of there being an element of gelling with the investee or investor. I also understand again that half of the time it's really people understanding their businesses and their business models well and understanding what type of financing they need. A lot of young people tend to run to look for investments. Investment is not free money. I think they think it is, but it's not. It has to get paid back. And now you just have like an olive breathing over your shoulder for like the rest of your life until she gets her money back. And so I just thought it was a nice and different opportunity to interact with business and in a different way. And I think at that point, I had sort of ticked all the boxes to be able to say, yes, I have the credibility and the mandate to be able to do this.
Okay, so how do you feel like the experience in Lions then has improved you or changed you as like an entrepreneur? Has it changed any way you see businesses and how you see strategies for like scaling and whatnot?
Yeah, so on the one part, it did at some point, I think it helped me clean up my house as well. Because now you're sitting over there asking people questions about this and this and this, and you're like, have I actually figured that out in my own business? Maybe I will get like fix this. So it does help you introvert, especially during the shooting days, because we shoot over 10 days for the entire season. So especially during the shooting days, you come out of there really introspecting and just looking at your own businesses and seeing how best to change them. So that it has opened up sort of my mind on the different opportunities that are there, things that I would never have actually looked at or thought of doing, that I've even engaged in. So it's opened up my mind in that sense, which has been really exciting. And of course, interacting with the Lions, they're like the four most awesome people I know. 5, 6, actually, now we're 6. We're 7, actually. So they're just a very interesting batch of people, and inside there you create your own sort of network amongst the Lions, which I think is invaluable.
Okay, so many of our members have really grand ideas that require a large sum of capital to like start. Do you have any advice for guys who want to pitch and want to position themselves for investors? How would they go about pitching and also positioning themselves the best way to get investment?
So first you have to understand your idea backwards and forwards, inside and outwards. Like you have to live, breathe, and be your business idea. Because if not, I mean, you watch the show, you ask 5 questions and you fall apart. It means that you haven't the business for what it is. So that's the most important thing. And then you have to have a passion for what it is that you're doing. You have to have sort of a gung-ho, whether you invest in me or not, I'm still going to do the business. So do you want to be part of the journey or do you not? And then even investors start saying, okay, actually here I could be missing out on something. But then if it's one of those, I'm waiting for an investor so that I can start, then it's maybe here, not there. And then lastly, I think investments should be the complete last resort, like the last resort. If you can start, I don't like saying start small, but if you can start without having to get investors in, start with, friends, family, and fools, is what one Mr. Senano likes to say. If you can start from where you are, start doing something that sort of starts building traction towards where you ultimately want to be. So that by the time you're even bringing investors in, your company has some value and you have negotiating power. But then if you're just like, hey, this is what I want to do, please help me. First of all, why rely then? I could just go to that other guy who's at least done 3 steps of the same thing and invest in that person. So being able to start with what you have from where you are is always the most important thing. I remember when I was looking for investors in Culture Africa magazine, we did the entire magazine, we did issue 1, and we were of the headspace. I was even telling my team, I'm like, but if you don't get investors, then we just start selling ads. Like it's, I mean, if we're doing this, we have to like decide this is what we're doing. And then we get a few printed, you know, get like 50K out, print a couple, go look for ads. I'm sure somewhere, you'll get someone who can put a few ads in, 1 or 2 ads in the magazine, do your next issue. Like, yes, we'll just do it anyway, with or without. We're fortunate enough in 3 conversations to get 3 offers. But we would have done it anyway. So once an investor gets that feeling of with or without the investment, you'll do it anyway, then it gives them a bit more confidence. And then of course there's passion, being passionate about the industry and not just in the money you're gonna make. Because if you're passionate about the profits and not about the business itself, it goes to say that once it stops making profit, you will probably drop it for something else. Passion is important.
So are there any tips you could give like the guys listening about pitching and about coming off like about really selling your business, about really selling you and your business? Could you give us a little bit of tips like that people could even like write down that this is how best to pitch your idea?
So your pitch should be short, tight, and sweet. It's almost like an elevator statement, but for your business. So you should be able to say in under 2 minutes who you are, what your business is, and what it does, and how it makes money, how much money you need if you need money, and how the investors get their money back. Just very simple. Don't start giving us backstories about, you know, I went and then I thought, and then I was like, maybe, perhaps, just say, you know, my name is Jessie, and I am in the pencil making business. It's a startup. I've not really made many pencils, but I'm very passionate about pencils because pencils are cool. Now I'm looking for 500K, which will help me make 10,000 pencils, which I can then sell for 10,000 pencils, which can then sell and make a revenue of, I don't know, 1 million shillings per batch. So why do I need the 500K? I need the 500K because we've been making small batches, it reduces our margins. But if we get the big investment, we then get to benefit from economies of scale, and it will suddenly move from being a kitchen business to a fully fledged. Simple. What's the business? How does it make money? What's the benefit? Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Okay, but for some of us who are like really emotionally invested into our business, we almost feel like we have to share like why it came about. Like, hey, I was doing this, and this is where life took me, and then a light bulb hit, and you get. So, do you feel like we should also share that emotional side because that's what driven us?
No. Nobody cares.
Okay. That's good to know. Even you've had no one cares. So lastly, like who was like your favorite like business person on the lands then, and why? For what reason were they your favorite like company or person?
Oh wow, I don't know. You know, we've done 4 seasons. Is it 4? We've done 4 seasons, and in 4 seasons, we listened to 75 pitches per season. Wow. Over a span of 10 days. So 75 times 4 is 300. I don't know. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I've got some really cool ones. When we go back, I've probably invested in them or committed to invest in them. So these are the ones that I probably like for one reason or another.
Okay. Fine. So now I'm going to go into like the chats for the questions guys have been sending throughout the conversation, and hopefully you could respond to them a bit quickly. Then we'll take 2 questions, around 2 questions, 2-3 questions, and then we can conclude the session. Okay, so let me just check the chats. What advice would you give a young business owner on how to scale and expand their clientele?
Sorry, say that again.
What advice would you give a young business owner on how to scale and expand the clientele?
Well, it depends on what type of business it is, but I guess if it's a B2B, that's business to business, just pitch, put yourself out there more. Knock on more doors, like just go and knock on those doors unashamedly, and you don't even be embarrassed. If it's B2C, business to consumer, then make your brand more visible and let there be a reason why someone would choose to work with you or buy your product as opposed to the competitors.
Okay, another person is wondering, what tips do you have to help like on your like because you're in a creative industry and how you go about your creative projects and how you manage your creative projects because they recognize it's not the same as being in a maybe manufacturing industry or just a retail industry. How do you go about the creative projects that you do?
What tips do I have in managing creative projects?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing is identify the best talents. Don't skimp on costs over talent. I've seen it happen where, you have a guy who's charging you 5K and a guy who's charging you 50K, then you go with the 5K guy, that guy will cost you more than the guy who's charging you 50K because of a skill level. So go for people who are good at what they do. Brief, debrief as much as possible, and let there be structures, reporting structures, timelines, the timelines after the timelines, because the first timelines are never met. So if you tell the client it will be ready by Thursday, you tell your team I need this thing by Friday this week. Then it will eventually reach you by Monday. Then you'll do the back and forth on Tuesday, Wednesday. The client will actually have it on Thursday. Yeah. So timelines, talent, and passion. If you don't like the dirt or the grime of whatever field in creative it is, then you lose your mind. You absolutely lose your mind. So you have to be passionate about
it. Okay, that's good advice. For guys who have just graduated or are about to graduate, what tips do you have for them? Like 2 or 3 tips, concise ones, to build their brand as a professional.
You have just graduated. First of all, even before you start building your brand, you need to figure out who you are and what you want to do, which is extremely important. A lot of times I get people who come to the office for internships in fashion, and then you look at their CVs and they've done accounting. They're like, it doesn't matter, I can do fashion. I'm like, no, like why? So you have to first, before you start building your brand, you have to figure out what that brand is. And it doesn't hurt to actually take the time to find yourself, right? To find that thing that makes you tick, find that thing that you're actually passionate about. And get a job that's in that line. Don't just get a job for the sake of getting a job. Because once you get a job for the sake of getting a job, then you start going down a very slippery slope of becoming some mid-level unhappy manager somewhere in some corporation. So figure out what you're passionate about, and then whatever job, whatever internship, whatever volunteer work you do, make sure it's along those lines.
Wow, okay. And another question is, like, from your knowledge and experience, what are the topmost skills in demand, like soft skills in the Kenyan market? What soft skills are in demand in the Kenyan market?
Soft skills are not in demand. It's not like a thing that's in demand.
Yeah.
Soft skills is who you are. So maybe I'll just answer that in a different way. The soft skills that will make you stand out is your communication skills. It's extremely important. Your presentation, how you dress. People think it doesn't matter. It really matters a whole big, it's quite a bit. So I think that's it too. How you communicate to people in your written communication. I mean, I'm sure even people in this group here have sent emails from their phones that starts an email that says, I would like to look for a job. I mean, I would like to work for you. My name is, it's just like a paragraph, and then thanks, Jim. Right? Nobody's going to take that seriously because there's a way emails are written, there's a way you communicate. So communication skills and self-presentation.
So guys are wondering, was there any point in your career where you felt like quitting or felt like, hey, this might just not be worth it, and how did you overcome it? Or if that's not the case, what's like the biggest challenge you've ever had to overcome, and how did you do it?
I don't think I've ever felt like quitting. I think one day I realized that this is the path and there's no looking back. I don't know any other path. I don't know it's not like I left a job and started a business, and then I say, oh, I wish I stayed in my job. It's sort of what I know. So there are days I talk to my wall, like I think I'm crazy. There's projects, maybe I'll say there's projects that we started and halfway through, I'm like, yeah, maybe we should just leave this thing alone. Why are we doing this thing? It's important to have good partners because then you can call one of them and go on a rant, and then they rant with you, and then there's a whole fungwaro moment where they're like, oh, I thought I was the one who was thinking. So no, I don't. I've never really felt like quitting. I think I'm at the point where I know I don't have another option, right? This is the life I've chosen. This is what I've studied in school. It's not like I tomorrow can go and do anything else. I could go and start another business. It's still the same thing. Yeah. What was the second part of your question?
Okay, have you ever experienced a challenge that like your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it? Like a really challenge that really set you back, and how were you able to overcome it?
Well, we experience challenges every day. So maybe what's one of my biggest challenges? I like to say I have selective amnesia. Like those things that put me down, I just choose to just not ever remember them or think about them, then I stay happy. I think maybe there was that time when I was told, I think a year or two ago, by the same models that I support. So that was more emotionally challenging than anything else. It also made me realize the importance of personal branding because the same day we were being told we were signing contracts with clients, like big contracts. And in fact, as she was signing, it's like, are you still being trolled? I was like, yes. It's like, oh, Sana. It's okay, it will pass. So when do we start? But I think that one was more of psychological and just being able to, or not understanding how people are the way they are. Because like these are the same guys who, first of all, they're either on Twitter, then they're like inboxing you a different conversation. And it's like, these guys are just not loyal. Can you focus?
Yeah.
So I toyed around with it for a little bit. We blacklisted people. We said, guys, we're never working with, we're angry. And then it got to a point, I think a couple of months later, we had this huge event. And I remember telling Najuma, let's just call those girls, invite a message, most of us, in fact, call them, tell them to work. They'll be so embarrassed that we are the ones who have called them. It's the only way you can push back because otherwise, if you let it get to you, and then you're making enemies with 21-year-olds, it makes no sense. So it was a mind-boggling sort of thing to go through, but I think it made me realize that people are vicious and we should stop thinking that we're Mary Poppins and everybody likes us. You need to realize that even in your success, there's still a lot of people who are looking down on you or who are wishing you ill, which I never would have thought. I guess I was pretty naive in that sense. So it's made me look at people differently, made me look at relationships differently, not necessarily badly, but just a bit more cautious. Just the way, for example, when I was in my late teens, I used to hang out with a group of girls, and then you start realizing that they all gossiping about you, and you realize I'm better by myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Lastly, do you have any mentorship program for young people starting off in business?
So we are launching a mentorship program called Glow Entrepreneurs. Am I allowed to comment in this group?
Yeah, sure.
I'll send you the link. Glow and I don't know how to spell the word entrepreneurs. See, this is my life. I'll put it on there, but there is a mentorship program. It's called Glow Entrepreneurs. It was meant to have been very different. And one second. Entrepreneurs.com. Okay, I'll put the link on here just now. So anyway, it's called Glow Entrepreneurs Mentorship Program. And the structure for the mentorship program is it's in 2 cohorts, so to speak, where it's 0 to 2 years. So that's people who have ideas and people who have just started their businesses. And then 2 years to 5 years, which is people who are sort of growing their businesses because we realize that the wants and needs are very different. And so it starts with business coaching for a month, where in your groups of however many people, you sit with the coach. It could either be Olive or it could be someone else, and you interact or you meet once a week and unpack your business ideas until it gets to a point where it's a bit more solid. And then from there, we then link you up to a mentor that you can sit with for the rest of the year. The reason we start with the business coaching is because what we realized is that a lot of, because even I've tried mentoring people off the bat, but half of the time they don't even know what they want. And because of the type of mentors we want to get, we don't want them to go through the clank of trying to help young people figure themselves out, or even older people. So we'll do that internally. We'll help you figure out what it is that you're trying to do, such that by the time you're linking you up to a mentor, the conversations are more intentional and are more fulfilling. So obviously, because Corona happened and now we can't meet, it's been a bit, we are sort of restructuring and coming up with an online platform to do that, but we're still registering people. I'll put the link on there. So please feel free to register so that we can just collect the data. So far, I think about 100 people have registered, which again is just shocking because that's a lot of people. So we're thinking of what can we do, especially on the business coaching part on scale. But in terms of mentors, they're there in plenty. You can even say who you want to mentor you. We shall find them. We shall bring them to mentor you. Yeah. But by the time we're bringing them to mentor you, it also has to be worth their while. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what we're setting up. So please, everybody in the chat, please feel free to register.
Okay, you could also email me the link. I'll share it with like the club members.
I'll put it in the group.
Okay, sure. So also now I want to open it up to anyone who wants to ask a question directly. Just raise your hand and we see if I'll unmute you and then you can ask your question directly.
And if you're being unmuted, can I see your face? So you, wherever you are, you think your camera so we can see who we're talking to.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to ask a question. I couldn't find the thing for raising your hand, so the best I could do was a club sign, yeah. Now I wanted to know. So you seem like an extremely busy person, yeah. I mean, like running three, different. I mean, you have a lot of things going on basically. So it's like, how do you balance that with like time for personal basically? Because, well, I don't know, for me personally, I feel like I'm extremely busy sometimes and I feel like it could get overwhelming, but it's like, I'm just in university. So like my perception of busy is probably, it's like a lot less than, what you perhaps go through, in your daily life. So how do you deal with that? And like, do you have problems dealing with that? So yeah, I just wanted to know like how that is for you basically.
How do you balance, your questions are long. How do you balance, or how do you deal with busy?
Yeah, how do you deal with busy, and like when do you really find time for like your personal life? Or like is your personal life?
Personal life is my work life. Okay. So how do I deal with busy? So I'm very structured in, like my days and my weeks are extremely structured, and even more so in this COVID thing, it's weird. So my days and my weeks are extremely structured. I start, actually now it's in reverse, but then I used to start my day at 5:30, so I'm up at 5. By the time I roll out of bed, it's 5:30. Then you sort of have 5:30 to 6:30, you do your prayers, you have your coffee, you sort of sit around and like stare at nothingness and just sort of be present in yourself. And then I will work from about 6 to 8 because the phone doesn't really start ringing until about 8:30. So that 6 to 8 a.m. is just like golden hour. You get so much done. And it's actually much better than doing it in the evening. So you hash out all the work you need to do, all the emails you need to send, you time them, and then 8:30 or 8, the phone starts ringing and you sort of don't stop until you collapse back into your bed at 10 p.m. So that's the way that life works. Now, during COVID, my day starts at, I wake up at about 6:30, no, so I wake up at 7:30, roll out of bed at 8, calls start at 9, like no one will call you nowadays at 8, it's strange. So from 9, you're sort of back to back, you already have your call scheduled or whatever work it is that you need to do. Then from about 7, 8, it becomes quieter. So then I go into my home office and I'm able to like sit at my desk and now just do work. Well till midnight, 1, 2 a.m. So end up collapsing back into your bed at about 3, but you've done a good day's work, and then you start the cycle again. So I don't spend that much time watching TV. I really don't. Every time I try to, I fall asleep because I'm so tired. All my interactions, my friends are my colleagues, are my, so even when you're hanging out with people in the name of hanging out with them, there's still like a deal that's being done somewhere inside there, but then you're like hanging out. So it never feels like wasted time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does answer my question. I'm not sure it's something I'm looking forward to too much though. So
it's a calling, by the way, not everybody can do this, but
yeah.
then if you, yeah, because I was talking to somebody today just before the call, and she was saying now she's going to take a nap. I'm like, you're going to take a nap? It's 3 p.m. on a Friday. She's like, yeah, no, I'm tired. The kids are sleeping, so I'm going to go and sleep. I'm like, wow. Okay, I have like 3 calls left, but it's fine. Yeah.
Anyway, so
Alright,
yeah,
so
I think that does answer my question. Yeah.
John, I'll unmute you.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Thank you, John. How are you?
I'm good. You are just next level. I really love you as a woman in business. I know it sounds a bit gender biased, but yes, it's just hi. My question would be, okay, well, I opened like 2 small things. One is a small investment company whereby you give me your money, then I return it to you with a profit after about a month or 2, but you can withdraw anytime. And the second one was a initiative for people who do not have shoes, or rather the less fortunate kids who go to school barefoot. Tried to pitch it to family. They accepted the one for helping the less fortunate, but the other one not really. And sometimes you get a lot of backlash, people insulting you. How do you, okay, one person who barely have that behind you, like it's pretty clean, even in such olive, it's very clean. How do you deal with people attacking you? This one time I was listening to you on radio, and a certain model called and was saying you've not paid her. And the way it was just amazing. I was listening to it in a matatu and I was like, okay, that is quite diplomatic of her. Because if it was me, the first thing I could have retaliated with the same words she used. So how do you deal with all this?
Okay, so first of all, I remember that radio call, and I know, it's like I know you, like we communicate on phone. It's not like I'm a stranger, and so like I told Jesse, or like I said earlier, you realize that a lot of time in life, once you realize that not everybody has your best interest, and I think for the longest time I was extremely naive, thinking everybody loves Olive, Olive is the best, and Olive can do no wrong. But then you realize that somewhere inside there, there's guys who are, they're just buying, they have that kimyedo, that's a thing, and there's nothing that you can do about it. As long as you stand in your truth and you know what you're about and all of that. So that's extremely important. That was the first one. That was the last one. Your other 2 investment company shoes, I didn't get that.
I was just asking how to attract customers. Like, how do you click to the mind?
Okay. You have to be solving a problem. If you're going to attract customers, if you're going to open people's purses, you have to be solving a problem. I'll give an example. We have a COVID-19 sort of CSR project where for 2,000 shillings, we're buying food and hygiene items for one family for about a month, 3 weeks, right? And so we did it as ourselves. We did it with Adada Foundation, which is run by Janet Bogwa. And then a couple of people would pass by and see what we're doing, and then they would start donating. And it has slowly become a thing. We've now touched, I think, 1,000 homes. We've donated to 1,000 homes or something like that. And now we've been getting corporates donating. And the reason we're getting corporates donating is because they have a little CSR budget. It's not 10 million to take to the COVID response committee, but they have a little CSR budget. And they're like, what can we do? And then also get visibility out of it. So I'm like, yes, we'll donate. It's like for like, it's not our business, but you'll donate, you can come to the office, take pictures, you can even go on the ground and donate to us. So solve a problem that they had, where they were looking, how do I support everything that's happening with COVID without having to figure out the entire value chain. So we've got it figured out already. So that becomes a solution. To your point on shoes, I remember even Bata at some point wanted to donate shoes to school-going kids. But then there were like the logistics of having to think about how to even start doing that it's too much. So then they push it for later. And you come up with a solution saying you could do 1, 2, 3, 4. So people will only open their presses or their wallet if you're answering a problem or offering a solution that's more convenient than what they already have.
Okay. Hope that has answered your question. Anyone else? Anyone else have a question, query? Just check the chat.
I have another question. So there's this whole Glow Entrepreneurs. So I've actually just opened the site. I've opened the link on your site. Yeah. Do you guys charge for this particular, like, to join the program? You don't?
No, we don't.
Okay. So I mean, like, we have a club, yeah, and we have quite a number of entrepreneurs. Well, I think our membership is around like 192 right now. So like this club, so like not everyone is here. So I was thinking we could perhaps maybe, do some sort of partnership with you guys, and we could get a lot of people to join the program. So
you get a what?
We could get a lot of people to, like, sign up for your program. I feel like if we could partner like as a club with, I mean, there would be immense value for us, and yeah, I think it would be a great thing. So
sure, sounds good.
So I don't know, we can talk perhaps later on the same. I just wanted to bring it up there.
Okay, no problem. Sounds good. Thank you.
That's our club president, by the way. That's Kevin. He's the club president.
Okay.
Shout out to Kevin. He's the one who came up with the idea for having you as our first guest. So big him up.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
You're welcome.
So I think there are no more questions, and I think we shall end it there. So I want to first say thank you, man. Thank you very much for taking your time to be with us today, for giving us like gems, man. You've been dropping gems all day, so we really want to thank you for that. I also want to thank everyone who attended today. I hope you guys got value for your time, and I hope this is like the start of like maybe a good relationship between the club and you.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Okay, and one final announcement for the guys who are attending. We're also having another Zoom session next Friday called State of the Economy, where we shall have 3 economists talk about what's going to happen post-COVID or how you can adapt during like the COVID situation. So these guys will be Pius Mushiri, the MD of Nabo Capital, Sani Vikram, the Associate Director at PwC, and John Karani, Chairman of the Utumi Board of Directors. And it shall all be moderated by Dr. Vincent Ogutu, our Vice Chancellor, Strathmore's Vice Chancellor. So if you guys want to know about like the economy during and post-COVID, it will be like a very good session for you guys to attend. And with that, we are concluding like the session. Thank you all once again. Thank you for everyone who attended. I'll end the meeting in 5 seconds. Thank you.
All right, thank you.